Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timirandasya. Gyananjana Shalakaya. Chakshurmilitam Jena. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Continuing with our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, we're now entering into chapter 6. This describes Narada achieving his perfection. So this is also with the commentary of Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Thakur. Sutta Goswami says, Sutta is speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya. He's the one who is telling the story. So Sutta says to the head Brahmana Shanak, O Brahmana Shanak, the powerful Vyas, the son of Satyavati, after hearing about Narada's birth and activities, again asked him questions. Commentary. In this 6th chapter, Narada describes how he went to the forest and saw the Lord and hearing his words, later receiving a spiritual body. So Vyas says to Narada, Vyas says to Narada, when the mendicants who had taught you that knowledge departed, being of young age, what did you do? So Vyas is wanting to understand, and here it says, the commentary says, since I am your disciple, Vyas is speaking, I desire to know, and therefore I am asking how you achieved your perfection. You received those mantras, and the mendicants who you had been serving for the 4 months of the rainy season have now departed. So what happened after that, and how did you achieve your perfection? O son of Brahma, how did you spend the rest of your life? In what manner did you give up that body as the son of a maidservant at the time of death? So please continue with your story, how you achieved your perfection and what happened at the time of death when you released yourself from the embodiment of being the son of a maidservant and thus achieved the status of becoming the son of Brahma. Idam Kalevaram refers to this body born from the maidservant. How did you give that up? Then Vyas says, time destroys everything. Why did time not destroy your memories of a previous day of Brahma? So generally we don't remember our past lives, but so Vyas is wondering, how is it that you remember previous birth? Time destroys everything, even our memory of our previous lifetime. So how is it that you remember being this son of a maidservant? Narada said, when the mendicant teachers who had given me knowledge left, even though I was of a young age, I did as they instructed. My mother was uneducated. She was a menial servant and only had me as her son. She therefore had great affection for me, her only shelter. So apparently she was unmarried. She had the son. She cared for him. Her position was very lowly. She was a menial servant. She had no real education. So her attachment was very deep for her son, which is natural. She was dependent on me. Though she wanted to protect me, she could not do so. Just like a puppet master controls a female puppet. The Lord controls all people. Everything is under the divine will of the Lord. So she may have desired something, but ultimately Krishna's plan is in effect. We cannot change that. I was only 5 years old, inexperienced with time and place and direction. I lived in a Brahmin's house with the belief that she would never leave me. So naturally, as a young boy, I thought this was my situation. She's my mother. I'm taken care of here. I live in this house where we serve the Brahmins, and life went on like this. But One time, a snake, here it says, impelled by time. That is, everything is going on by the will of the Lord. And time is the revealer of all things. One time, a snake, impelled by time, touched by her foot, bit my poor mother, who had gone from the house to milk the cows at night as she walked along the path. Considering that her death was the mercy of the Lord, who is concerned for the welfare of his devotees, I then departed immediately for the north. So the young Brahmin boy, the young son of the maidservant, Narada, thought in a very mature way that everything is going on by the will of the Lord. As the Lord is always concerned for the welfare of his devotees, he always puts us in a situation by which we can grow spiritually, as long as we're not offensive. But he thought of this, that this was the will of the Lord, that my mother has passed. Now what am I to do? So he thought, I will head towards the north. I have heard that the sadhus go up to the Himalayas, the northern direction, so I will go in that direction. Commentary. Considering the death of my mother as the mercy of the Lord, I departed towards the north. He did so without performing her funeral rites. Simply, he decided to leave and go. I passed through large populated areas, capitals, Brahmana villages, cowherd villages, mines, farms, villages on mountainsides, gardens of flowers and betel, wild groves and plantations. In this way, traveling, and he saw many different sites and many different habitats. Bhati means gardens. He saw gardens of flowers and betels, and various other things such as mines and places where Brahmins lived and their servants, which is called gram. He saw places of the Sudras, it is all described. Passing by mountains that were colored with gold and silver, with trees, branches broken by elephants, pools of fresh water, lakes used by the devatas, beautified by bees wandering about, awakened by the sounds of birds, all alone. I saw also huge, repulsive, fearsome forests, dense with reeds and canes and clumps of shara grass, kusha grass, and hollow bamboo, which was the playground for snakes and owls and jackals. The commentary says, there were mountains resplendent with silver and gold, and trees whose branches were broken by elephants. There were ponds of auspicious waters and lakes sported by the devas there. The lakes were beautified with bees. They were roused by the sound of birds. In this way, he describes various things he saw. Ghoram, here he says, I also saw that which was repulsive because of fearsome forms, different scary forests or almost appearing haunted forests. I did not have surprise or fear in seeing those surprising and fearsome beings because my mind was absorbed in tasting the sweetness of the Lord at that time. Continually remembering his mantra, he simply wandered and observed, like one may observe, detaching oneself from everything. One becomes the observer as the Atma. He observes what is going on around him without becoming attached or fearful. He accepts everything that he sees and sees everything is going on by the will of the Lord. Senses and body exhausted now, thirsty and hungry. After bathing in a pool of river, I performed Achman and I took some rest. So as he wandered about, naturally he became hungry and thirsty and tired. He performed achman and took bath to purify himself and relieve himself from the exhaustion that he had experienced. In that desolate forest, now sitting at the base of a pipalaya tree, I concentrated by using my intelligence on the Paramatma situated within my mind, as I had been taught. Commentary: sitting at the base of an ashwata tree, pipalaya or banyan tree, I had heard from the mendicants, not surpassing the meditation using the mantra given, using my intelligence, I contemplated the Paramatma, situated in my mind and who resided there permanently, as I had developed prema for the Lord. So he sat there underneath this tree, taking shelter, and we know the power of such trees. Even it is described that Buddha himself attained enlightenment under such a tree, and many, many sages have taken shelter under the Ashwata tree and have experienced divine visions. So this tree is very special and very sacred. So he took shelter there, relieving himself from the exhaustion after bath, and started to perform his meditation. As I meditated on the lotus feet of the Lord, with a mind now conquered by prema, with tears in my eyes from longing, desiring to see the Lord, step by step, the Lord made his appearance in my mind. Gradually, the Lord began to reveal himself. As I meditated in mind, this is from the commentary, with the mind conquered by prema, bhava nirjitaha, with divine emotion, the Lord, step by step, made his appearance before me. Gradually can mean first he appeared in the heart, and then he appeared in the functions of the mind, the nose, the ear, and the eyes, like that. So I could experience the fragrance of his body, sound of his ankle bells, the beauty of his face. What happened to me? I had tears in my eyes because of longing. Senses became awakened to the presence of the Lord. Not only within his mind, but he could smell the fragrance of the Lord, hear the ankle bells. This way, all his senses became enlivened with the presence of the Lord before him. My limbs covered in distinct goosebumps out of excessive prema, filled with delight. I fainted out of bliss, but then could no longer see myself or the Lord. So out of intense ecstatic emotion, he fainted. But what happened was just as one goes into a deep sleep, one loses vision of oneself or knowledge of oneself. So he fell into this faint, and he lost his vision of the Lord and of himself. Here it says in the commentary, my limbs are covered with distinct goosebumps because of excessive prema. This indicates that all his limbs had developed the symptoms of prema at this time. The phrase can also mean that he was covered with goosebumps, erupting so much that the prema was difficult to bear, and thus he fainted out of bliss, and thus I could not see myself or the Lord. Suddenly, not seeing the attractive form of the Lord, which destroys all lamentation, I became agitated from the sorrow of separation. I became despondent, like someone who had lost a great treasure. So as his consciousness again emerged, he realized himself lying there, and he had lost the vision of the Lord, and he became agitated naturally with sorrow that he had lost that vision and was trying to see the Lord again, but with no avail. Suddenly, not seeing the Lord, I became roused like a man who had lost a treasure. Oh, I became despondent. Desiring to see that form of the Lord again, I fixed my mind in the heart. Though I looked intently, I did not see the Lord. dissatisfied, I became a diseased person or a depressed person. That I had lost this great treasure of this vision of the Lord that came to me. But how can I get it back? As I endeavored to see him in that lonely place, the Lord, inexpressible by words, then spoke to me with affectionate words, which removed my grief. Then he began to hear something, the words of the Lord. The Lord is beyond description of words. As stated in the Shruti, Yato Vacho Nivartante, the Lord from whom words return without attaining him. The Lord, who cannot be approached by words, spoke to me. I had an experience of his sweet-sounding words by my ears. Because Narada had bhakti arising from Vaidhi sadhana, he had realization of the sweetness of the Lord's fragrance, beauty, and speech in his present body. The complete experience with all other types of sweetness, such as touch and taste, would be experienced in the future in his spiritual body, Siddhadeha. So he was limited because of his practice. He was practicing the form of sadhana called Vaidhi sadhana. But he had not yet matured to awakening his full spiritual identity. That is called the Siddhadeha. By this, his sweet words, the Lord removed all types of lamentation and suffering which had arisen by not seeing him. The word iva means somewhat, is used because his love and longing caused by separation had not been fully satisfied. He was longing for that. That is luliam or intense greed. He wanted that. He had experienced it to some limited degree and wanted more. Oh, in this body, you will not be able to see me again. These are the words of the Lord. In your present condition, in your present body, you will not be able to see me again. In other words, the Lord gave him a special mercy by giving him the vision for some short time to increase his desire to see him again. But lax practitioners who still have some contamination cannot see me at all. Commentary. What did he say? Oh, this is an address made out of affection. In this birth, having the body of a practitioner, you cannot see me. I am invisible to those faulty practitioners of yoga whose contaminations such as lust have not yet been burned up. The intention here is to say, but I showed myself to you, therefore you are not a faulty practitioner. Jiva Goswami mentions that some persons purify themselves but remain even within the sattva guna and thus are attached to living in the forest or like Bharat Maharaj, who was attached to a deer. There's some attachment still remaining there, and so full perfection cannot be had. So the Lord here tells the young boy that by my mercy I have shown you myself, but this is the last time you will see it in this practitioner form, in this form as a practitioner, until you achieve your full perfection, the Siddhadeha, the spiritual body that you require to see me with. O sinless Narada, he goes on to say, I showed myself once to you to produce a desire in you to see me. The devotee so desiring me gradually becomes freed from all material desires. But just show yourself once more to me. Seeing me only once, not many times, is enough to produce a desire for me. that desire to see me again. By only slight increase in longing, praying will not develop in the state of youthfulness in a person having somewhat weak praying. My rule is that I show myself one time only to a person practicing in his present body, that is, in his sadhaka deha, who has developed some praying. The infant state of praying in the sadhaka's body matures gradually to a youthful state in the siddha deha, just like one grows from childhood to youth to full maturity. So in spiritual practice, that is also the situation. One begins like a child. We're taught some simple things. Chant Hare Krishna, eat prasad, like this. We're taught some things. But as we mature spiritually, like a person matures into a youthful form, we understand things more. Child understands things to a limited extent. Then he begins to mature and his education grows and he understands things in a greater capacity than he had understood as a child. So here the Lord is saying, you are still in your childhood form, spiritually and materially in one sense. And you will grow as you practice your mantras. You practice what the sages gave you, the information and the ways of sadhana that they instructed you. And you will mature in time so that your body becomes spiritualized. You will have a siddha deha, a full spiritual body. The infant state of praying in the sadhaka's body matures to a youthful state in the siddha deha by an increase of praying which arises from the longing for the Lord in separation. When, oh when will that day be mine? That youthful praying allows the devotees to see me constantly and serve me directly. I alone, and not my devotee, know the process of fulfilling the desires of my devotee. In other words, the devotee does not understand everything. Krishna says here, the Lord says here, but I know everything. I know when to give you what you need to feed you properly, just like the parent knows how to see to our education, to see to our nourishment, to see to our healthy condition, like this. So Krishna is the Supreme Father. And he says, you do not know, but I know. And I will give you that as your desire increases also. Know the process of fulfilling the desires of my devotee. You, who simply desire me, even without having seen me, will become free from all desires for material enjoyment. Gradually, like this. This statement does not actually apply to Narada, since he did not have any material desires, being at the level of prema already. But saying this, the Lord shows the nature of devotion, the gradual process. Additionally, by saying this, the Lord increases the humility of Narada. So on another level, he's increasing the humility of Narada. Don't be proud. But generally, one has to go through this process. Narada is a special case. Then he says, by serving the devotees for even a short time, your intelligence became firmly fixed in me. When you give up this body of lower birth, you will then become my associate. Commentary. By serving the devotees for even a short time, you developed strong intelligence in me. Giving up this lower body or material body, you will then become my associate. Your intelligence being absorbed in me will never be destroyed, even at the time of creation and destruction of the living entities. By my mercy, your memory of previous kalpa will not be destroyed. So Vyasa asked, how is it that you remember something that happened previously? And here he says, because the Lord gave me a special benediction. Your concentration on me will not perish, because it has been fixed upon me by praying. Because I am eternal, the remembrance of me is also eternal. You'll remember that first time when you saw me, and the practice that got you to that point. From there, you will mature. Having spoken this, the Lord, whose words are the highest proof, whose words appeared in the sky, that is, he was not visible to the eyes at this time, and who was capable of showing mercy to this most fallen boy, the Lord stopped speaking. Receiving his mercy, I lowered my head to the greatest of the great. Mahadbhutam is the name of the Lord. Here he says, the breathing of the Lord, called Mahabhuta, is referred to from the Rig Veda. Since his breathing is the 4 Vedas, his words are the highest proof. Since he gave blessings even to me, a low-born son of a maidservant, he is called the One Supreme Lord, or Ishvaram, which means one who is capable of bestowing all benedictions upon the living being, Ishvaram. Since the Lord left a trace in the ether in the form of his speaking to Narada, he is called Nabo Lingam. He is called Lingam because he is not visible to the eyes. So he left this impression within the young boy, an impression that would never leave him. And so he was able to carry this to his next birth. So we'll continue next time. As he says, giving up my shyness, I began to chant the names. So continual progression. We will hear the perfection of Narada. In fact, the chapter is called Narada Achieves His Perfection. Jai Gaur Premanandi Haribol Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.